ed around like best teacher practices, but that they really are trained around our tools, the things that we know are best practices for preschool and pre-K students, especially because a lot of universities, especially in the nation, are kind of just stepping into this work. And we've been working in this realm or this context for a while. And so it's important for us to kind of hold on to that and know everything that we're offering and bringing to the partnership.
Erica, how do you determine what your primary or secondary partner would be? And I'm just assuming anybody who's associated or partnered with NCTR is obviously a partner, but how do you determine, like Kelly mentioned, we have like a sister branch to our organization, and I wonder how we determine who all is a partner or who's not.
Sure, and it looks like Lambrina's with us, and I think we'll let her be the teacher for the moment.
Thanks, Erica. So just quick check for understanding. So as the question around how decisions are made, especially in complex partnerships, around who is the lead partner and then who are the partners who may not be the primary liaisons or the primary conveners. Is that the question?
Yes.
Got it. So it's a really great question. That cuts at the core of the content that you're going to be unpacking with your lead consultant in the future. So there are a lot of materials that we share with you. So some of them came up in the videos, some of them are in the rubrics, and also we have some RFP and interview protocol materials that are going to be a helpful guide for that. But the biggest things to take into account really stem from some of that landscape analysis mapping that you all have already done. We covered at previous residency foundations, and really identifying based on what the teacher pipelines are and the strategic decisions that you're making around those that determine how many partners you'll end up having, what role they are going to play. We also have coming up actually in our second half together today around staffing and the distribution and the decision, explicit articulation around roles and responsibilities. So that's also a place where you're engaged in some of that, both stractical, so both strategic and tactical thinking around, given where capacity lives, right? Who is able to show up at the table, allocating of themselves in ABC fashion, for example, to be the lead on recruitment and selection, right? That's one example. How are we collaborating across, because this is usually a collaboration across institutional partners in competency area 3, in order to align our clinical coursework that's happening via our provider and our certifier with the rehearsal experiences, reinforcement experiences that residents have in classrooms with their mentors. So all of that to say, so that I monitor my virtual oxygen. It's a complex decision that you're making for your partnership, taking into account several big factors. One of them is staffing and ability to allocate capacity to different functional roles, which we're going to be talking about in the second half today. The second piece, which is coming up in Residency Foundations 3, is your planning for scaling and sustainability. So the decisions that you're making today, when you look at your financial model, which is intimately coupled with your scale and sustainability planning, the decisions that you make today on that, looking ahead a year, 3 to 5 years, those decisions may shift when you're 3 years out. And in particular, I know that for Apple Tree, this is a place where you all want to get to, and you're poised to do it really quickly, to scale out and work with a greater number of school-based partners. So the decision that you make today, you may want to put one in place that's an interim that sets you up for success this year, and then 3 to 5 years from now. And 3 years from now, you might be making a shift as to how many partners you have, who's in housing what. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Okay, it was a lot of words. I'm going to pause them now. I'm going to step back.
Thank you.
Kelly had asked a question about what.
We're back from our breakout rooms.
And can you see my screen, Lambrina? Yeah? Can everyone see? Okay, great. Okay. We had a great discussion in Albuquerque, lots to continue on. I hope the other discussions were good too. I am going to close out this module by walking through the resources that are in the teacher preparation portal, talking a bit about delivery, submission, and next steps. In the portal, under the deliverables section, is the NCTR rubric for partner selection. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and you can see at the bottom there are these tabs for the different types of organizations. And then each of these tabs has those criteria that I referenced earlier. In the post-work column in the teacher preparation portal for the partner selection module, there are about 7 resources that you can ignore if you want to, or you can peek at if you want to. These are the resources that we use for partners or for an organization who has not yet selected a partner. So there are sample interview questions, sample RFPs, and a template to make their selection process. You can take a peek if those would be helpful in your conversation, or you can ignore those for now. Your next steps, you have 2 deliverables that are due September 5th. The first are the partner selection rubrics. Each organization that is a part of your residency program will complete a partner selection rubric using the appropriate rubric. There's a place on the rubric for notes where you can add evidence for why you put your organization where you put it on the rubric. You should gather as a design team and present and share these completed rubrics with each other and upload the completed self-assessments to the TPP. So Wilmington University, for example, Wilmington University will complete the IHE rubric. They're working with 3 districts, so each of those 3 districts will complete a district rubric. They'll have a meeting to share those out and then upload them to the TPP. The other piece is identification of your lead partner and rationale.
Join the meeting.
And that can just be a Word doc that you upload to the TPP. After you've made that decision, you need to make the final decision, if you have not already, of where to situate the residency program within that lead partner. And that test might be helpful in that, or a revision of what you responded on that test sheet may be helpful. Okay, I'm a little over time, so we're going to take a very short break before starting staffing roles and responsibilities. Could we take 3 minutes to stand, stretch, use the restroom that we need if we need to, and then come back and we will move on to staffing roles and responsibilities. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Thank you.
Through our second module of this webinar, staffing roles and responsibilities. Just to kind of foreshadow, I'm going to share a lot on the front end of this so that we can get to a conversation at the second half of this module. We want to make sure that you have that time to really dig in and discuss. So the intended outcomes of this module are really to set your team up to establish the ideal staffing model so you have the capacity you need to design and implement and continue to refine an effective residency program. We're going to discuss the key roles and responsibilities, set you up to continue to discuss gaps between sort of that ideal and where you currently are, and continue to plan to address those gaps over the course of this design year. And we're going to begin to connect this staffing model to the financial model, which is work we're going to be doing next week to ensure long-term sustainability. Our agenda is going sort of at that really 50,000 foot level, looking at what are the roles and responsibilities within an effective residency program. Talking about assembling and refining your current staffing model. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with a preview of some resources that will be available to you, deliverable submission, and general next steps. As always, we root the work that we do in the NCTR standards for effective residencies. This work, along with the modules that we've really been living in up to this point, is focused on Competency Area 1, Partnership and Program Sustainability. Focusing on ensuring that program staff is hired and organized to address the design and implementation needs of the residency. Your deliverable for this module is going to be your staffing model, which will include the design team and staff, the organizational chart, and the relevant supporting job descriptions that go with that. As always, NCTR is here to provide ongoing strategic consulting, evaluation, and program review. So let's dig into these roles and responsibilities. And again, I'm gonna talk a lot and quickly so that we can get to a conversation. And we just really wanna be super clear on some of the considerations that you should have in mind when you're both sort of refining your staffing model and or building your staffing model. There is no more important work that you will do. You know, we like to say it's kind of duh, the people stupid, right? So we really want to make sure that you're set up for success in this critical decision of your staffing model. So we're going to kind of look again, 50,000 foot level, at the staffing work streams that are aligned to the NCTR standards for effective residency, starting with Competency Area 1, Partnership and Program Sustainability. The work of sort of establishing that vision, mission, theory of change, creating and managing the institutional partnership, creating and implementing a strong, sustainable financial model, and creating structures for that real summative assessment and evaluation of program impact are all part of partnership and program sustainability. Moving into Competency Area 2, recruitment and selection, which includes creating a management or a recruitment strategy for residents, teacher educators, which includes mentors, and training sites. In addition to having that ideal selection strategy to make sure that you're vetting for the right people, a strong marketing plan, high-touch recruitment strategies to make sure that you have the capacity to really go after candidates that put their kind of hat in the ring, and that matriculation strategy so that we are sure to seal the deal. The residency year experience, that Competency Area 3, is the work of really preparing residents. So you need to know and define what residents, your graduates, when they are first day teachers of record, will know and be able to do. So those competencies are high leverage practices. Your curriculum design and integration with that clinical experience, which will include intensive coaching and supervision. And then more of that summative on the ground assessment so that we are continuously improving the practice of teacher educators and residents over time. Lastly, Competency Area 4 is dealing with the impact of our graduates. So to ensure that, there needs to be a strong hiring strategy, clear induction and ongoing professional development, and really strong alumni engagement, making sure that residents are becoming graduates that are your greatest ambassadors in your context. So when we think about these work streams by competence area, we want to do a quick poll. We want to think about, just take a minute to reflect. Where does your program, do you feel, currently has the greatest clarity or strengths of roles and responsibilities? So Lambrina is going to share a poll.
Is everyone seeing the poll right now? Quick check. Got it. Okay, so it looks like everyone is able to see it. Fantastic. So we'll take another few seconds and then I will share the results. And hopefully everyone will be able to see them, even if not me. All right. So I'm going to share the results. Perfect.
Great. It is looking like these are some fascinating results. It's looking like folks are feeling most prepared to do the work of preparing residents in that residency year experience, with kind of a lagging second place for partnership and program sustainability. And really trailing far behind that is recruitment and selection. And we got 0 votes for alumni engagement and graduate professional development, which is probably appropriate. You all are coming to the table thinking about how to prepare teachers, and really we're going to wrap around ongoing supports in these additional areas. Thanks so much, Lambrina. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to move quickly just through some voiceover of really what goes into considering the assembling and refining of your staffing model. So as we've shared, there are many hats that need to be worn in this complex work of the residency model. You have your complete team that accounts for all of this work. From within that, you will have dedicated staff. Those are the individuals that are solely working on this project, on this partnership and program. Then there will be the design team that's really focusing on that ongoing design and implementation leadership of the work from across the organization. And then currently there's the likelihood that you have some current gaps that we want to unearth and address. Starting with that design team and the roles of that design team, we want to make sure that the design team is modeling the skills and mindsets that go into the residency work and fulfilling the roles and responsibilities of leadership. They're champions within their organizations and leveraging needed resources. You all are here today because you are participating in the NCTR Residency Foundations 2. So that means participating in NCTR programming and then sharing across the partnership, learning from NCTR. You want to have that superstructure, those regularly scheduled meetings that ensures the work can move forward. And you all, as the identified members of the design team and those that participate, will participate in key decisions. And ongoing, you want to be collecting and sharing data that moves the work forward and allows for continuous improvement. We're going to take a look at a couple programs from the NCTR network and think about how, and just kind of take a peek at how they created their design teams. We'll start with the Seattle Teacher Residency that created a steering committee with sort of the top brass of leadership from across their partnership. So that was the CEO of the nonprofit that was at the table, the district superintendent, and the dean from the School of Education were all participated in that steering committee. And from there, they had a larger group that was engaged in design and implementation, and they also had a community advisory council. So they were getting both sort of that ongoing dialogue and input from the community at large and building champions through that. And then the Minneapolis residency program similarly had a steering committee, but then had some multiple breakout sub-teams that each focused on core streams of the work. Some of those examples included focusing on development, focusing on evaluation, and focusing on, for instance, mentor development and support. We're going to take a look at what are the mindsets and skill sets needed on this team, this critical team for the work, and how that's really specific to the residency model. We want to make sure that folks are impact-oriented. You all are here to transform teacher prep in your space, so we want that impact to be at the center of the work, which sort of neatly moves into that innovation, how you're constantly looking at the model, innovating the model, improving the model using data. Collaboration is king in the residency model. We know it's challenging to collaborate within our institutions and even more so across institutions. So making sure that folks at the table are committed to that and also willing to have those ongoing difficult conversations for improvement. And then a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The residency model was really born out of a commitment to improving educational equity and outcomes for kids, and we want to keep that at the center of the work. Now we want to think about what goes into the decisions of who is engaged in this work. And there's kind of two different buckets. Leveraging existing staff within current institutions, and then also the need potentially to hire new staff, and that is often that dedicated staff to the work. So I'm just going to pause here and give you a moment to take a peek at this slide. And also just really point out that leveraging existing staff really helps operationalize sort of the work across the organizations, creates leaner financial models. But then also there's often the need to create a plan and a path to hire new staff and have dedicated folks really solely focusing on this work without other commitments that squeeze out these priorities. Just a note on capacity and sustainability. If your staff is too bulky, if your staffing model is too bulky, you are really going to be hampering long-term financial sustainability. Similarly, if your staff is too lean, the work is not sustainable, therefore the model is not sustainable. So we want to kind of be arriving at that Goldilocks just right level of staffing. So we are going to move into a choose your own adventure discussion at this point. We want to take 25 minutes to really discuss your staffing model. And some of you might be in a position to really start and dig into a conversation about your design team, who is or should be core members of your design team, thinking about who are your builders, champions, who has the expertise, who is the backing and support of that organizational leadership. And then how will you structure your team? Thinking about sort of that Seattle example, that Minneapolis example, what are the best structures in your context to move this work forward? Some of you are in the position to really think about dedicated staff, considering the roles and responsibilities of the residency program. Are there current gaps on the team? And then what are sort of the plans to move forward and fulfill those gaps? It's possible that that will include leveraging existing staff across institutions. It's also possible that that will result in the need to do some hiring. So we're going to break back into our program teams to kind of, again, choose your own adventure to have this conversation. Lambrina, if you can send us on our way, we're going to have 25 minutes and we'll get a 5-minute and a 1-minute warning. If you can designate a note taker, as always, there is a tab for the staffing discussion within our Google Sheet.
Fantastic. All right. So with that, we are off to our virtual rooms.